Okay, I felt called to share a bit about money and a few thoughts that I've been having about money. Um, Recently, I encountered instances in my life where I was asking for donations for certain events that I was organizing. Um, we were dancing in a park with a lot of people, and I kind of just called people for an open invitation to come and join me and dance in the park. And I feel like people should be doing this a lot more. Just put on music somewhere and go outside and enjoy themselves in the sun. And after this first gathering, someone came to me and he was like, "Shouldn't we share in the expenses of what you're doing?" And I told him I don't have any expenses, so I wasn't actually planning to ask or receive money for this, but all donations are welcome, so thank you very much. And he gave me 20 euros. And this made me very happy and grateful. And I talked to the other people, and they were like, "Yeah, you can ask donations for this, or even put a price on it. Maybe people will come more." Because psychologically, apparently, if you set a price for something, people will value it more. And if they get something for free, they will lack involvement. Because if you give yourself to something and if you in some way put your effort into something, whether it be financial or through bringing any other kind of gift or your own presence and attention, it will give you more in the experience of that thing itself. So I decided to extend a new invitation and post it on Facebook as an event and in certain groups. And I put a donation link to it, and I said all donations are welcome, and then a suggestive 11 euros or 22 euros or 33 euros, um, which felt like a little bit itchy when I was doing it, but I also had fun with those amounts and putting those amounts there. Mm, but then a lot of resistance came from the groups that I posted it in, or a few people messaged me like, "Well, this is not okay. You're doing something in a park and it's public and anyone can join. And it's not in balance with the other events that are being posted here that are in, you know, dance halls or they rent a space basically. And they host a workshop, whereas you're just inviting people and you need a professional setup and catering, blah, blah, blah." And also one comment that really stuck with me was like, life is already expensive enough, so you shouldn't be asking money for coming together in a park. And besides the fact that I'm actually not asking money, I'm just open to donations and suggested specific amounts that shock people. Um, I also feel like this is simply untrue, and I understand where it comes from. And I used to be in that space of feeling like life is expensive and certain things have certain values, and we shouldn't be too crazy with what we ask for something. And um, basically, this kind of attitude where anything should be for free, except if there is a very clear value you're receiving. But recently I've been having a bit more fun and a little more detachment with money and what it is. And of course, I still need money to live my life and I want a lot of it. Yet at the same time, I feel more flexible around it, and I'm not so scared to assume that it would be possible for any random person to just donate me 33 euros for a day in the park. And besides that, I also see that there is clarity within me on the things that I organize and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And this might not be visible at first sight to anyone. So for some person, this might just be coming together in a park, and I'm not even actually offering much in terms of workshop or teaching people. But I know what it is that I'm offering. And I know that the value in coming together in the park in the sun is something that will extend over the future if it becomes a movement. And I don't want to talk too much about it yet because it's also growing within me. But I had quite a clear sense of what we need and why I should organize this. And thus also why it would be helpful to have an income if I spend my time and energy doing such things. And so, yeah, I'm still talking about this specific happening, and one idea that I got is that I maybe should rephrase the donation suggestions as you could give me an apple, or you could give me just your time and presence, or 33 euros, or €1.5, or 4,000 euros. I actually don't care that much. And in general, start playing with people's perception of money, because if you feel like life is expensive and we should keep things and prices limited and reasonable, I can see where it comes from. I understand it. And a part of me also maybe subscribes to that reality still. But it is also something that can catch you, and it is a mindset that keeps you very powerless. And it also feels like it is something that we have learned to agree to, and under the influence of people that we should not necessarily trust. And if we are intending to get money back into our own hands and not into the hands of public figures who desire for power and manipulate people in order to get that, we should also become comfortable with accepting that money flows in larger amounts into personal initiatives that are not necessarily looking very structured or as if there is a very clear give and return, but they're more about letting money flow into community and into things that are actually natural for people to do. Such as gathering in the park in the sun. And yeah, it's kind of inevitable to talk about those Epstein files, and to be honest, I almost know nothing about it. I've heard it coming up from different sources that some files have been released and they just show that there's a lot of corruption, especially in people and systems that are in power. And this is not new at all. I think it's been clear for years and years that this is the case, but it seems to cause another wave of shock for many people that have still put their trust in our systems. What to say about this? I recently was in a Belgian hospital to remove my wisdom teeth. And the operation that I went through was very smooth, and all the people were super kind to me, and I felt super taken care of. And at that point, I was really, really grateful for the Belgian hospital care and the healthcare system that we have. And I realized that this at least seems to be functioning quite well. And of course, there's gaps in there and things that aren't going well, but I got a general sense of trust in that a good amount of our taxes are at least going there, because it's still working in a solid way and in a way where it felt like it maybe would be hard to get that kind of healthcare in any other place in the world. So I don't want to discredit taxing systems or the democracies that we have altogether, but it is very clear that there is a lot of things going on beneath the surface that we, as a general audience, maybe don't know of, or we do know of it, but it's more maybe as a feeling-based knowing, or knowing that comes from sources that are immediately discredited by other sources. So it's kind of hard to know what is actual and factual. But I don't think it can be denied that there is a lot of corruption and that people are being trapped in systems, especially through finances and through outsourcing all of the resources that would exist in a community based life to the state or to companies. Um, and I saw a video of Teal Swan about um, masculinity, and she was specifically speaking about men who remain children. And there she also mentioned this, that we're more scared to depend on other people than to depend on the state or an external organization. And in the past 200 years, there has been a huge shift to the individual becoming more and more individual, so more independent, it seems, but actually we're just dependent on systems. And this has come because of social trauma and people not knowing how to relate to each other in a healthy way, which makes it more easy for us to live in small family systems instead of large communities, and from small family systems even to smaller ones where there's only a mom and a dad and some kids, and from there on even to separate households where people just live alone in apartments, and if they get sick they depend on state financing them, so that they can survive basically and pay the medical costs. But that means they also have to be in a job, so that they can have this, how do you call that, uitkering? Like the payment you get when you fall sick and you were in a job, that is state financed as well. And everything like our communication services, and like it's kind of hard to name anything that is community based and community offered and not state based. And this has become a very new standard. Um, and so it's almost weird for us to put money and effort and resources into initiatives that don't feel very official or systematic. And besides that whole story, I think it's just interesting to experiment with the idea of money in your own mind and see how flexible you can get with giving and receiving larger amounts, and to see it more as a commodity and something that is in flow than the baseline of your life on which you're dependent. Because if you actually look at it, you can be a living being without money, and your life is not actually dependent on that. It's just a connection that we've been trained into perceiving, which is why it is scary to not have predictable resources, and it is scary to try and create new pathways to have an income or be alive. If we're not even speaking about earning an income in terms of money, there's a lot of people doing this actually. And if you'd be interested, then you can just go on YouTube or even on Google and type in off-grid communities, and you'll sure find information online. And there's big movements and waves of people who are going this path of stepping outside of the society and living perfectly well, perfectly abundant and healthy, without depending on the systems. But the more interesting move that I consider valuable and is the one that I want to take is to stay inside of community and society and try to get the money back into the hands of the people. And this sounds a little bit Robin Hoodie, and I'm not very mature or wise on this path. but I'm starting to see openings to do so. And I think it's harder because I have to reframe my own thinking about money and worth and what I can receive and what I can offer. And I know it will take a retraining, mostly in accepting that other people will not at first be able to see what I value and why I put certain prices or amounts onto the things that I'm doing for people to access this. Anyways, I'm out of time because I'm going to a dancing event right now. Let me know what you think of these thoughts. I would be interested to talk about this with more people and to hear what you think. Yeah, Shambo.